on this episode, there are a few things we would like to cover. Obviously, chief amongst them is the fact that there's a Club World Cup final coming up. That Erasmus's Chelsea against the world's PSG. And for me, it's just protecting the world from climate change and noise pollution. That sometimes it's good that you think about PSG winning this Club World Cup. Because I know, for instance, for my own safety, that if Chelsea wins the next episode, I won't have ears. But anyway, we would have a discussion about the Club World Cup final that's coming up. We'll preview what's likely to happen, the battles that are going to be on the pitch, both tactical systems and individual battles that are going to occur. And we'll go a little bit into some transfer news that we've had in terms of Spurs sort of leading the news this past week in doing some quick fire signings. Well, another red club in English is English football has been dragging their feet over a deal for the whole of a month. And then finally, we would look at some players that are on the fringes of collapsing relationships with their clubs and see whether or not there's any chance at all that their careers could bounce back. You have the likes of Jadon Sancho, Marcus Rashford, Raheem Sterling, Gabriel Jesus as well. Not for him, not collapsing, but his injuries and Arsenal signing better strikers and focusing on the striker position is the way in which such players come back. So, as always, on this episode with me is the Chelsea superstar Erasmus Segbefield. And like he has his glasses on, he's going to give you objective analysis. But we all know for today, he's going to be with his blue hat and his blue smile. So, Erasmus, welcome to this episode.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's a really really hot day today in the UK. Sweltering heat. I've had to like open up my window for a bit. Um, Things are melting down, so I can kind of feel a little bit of what the players are feeling in New York, where the final of the Club World Cup will be played. Yeah, I think it's quite surprising that what has been the dominant discussion, and you might remind me, the dominant theme around this Club World Cup has been the temperatures, the weather. And today I was kind of like thinking, is this the moment where we can become aware of how much the climate is shifting, especially when it starts to impact like our daily life and things which we are concerned about, like sports. Like I've not seen a competition where even in Qatar, where the temperatures were so high, there was not this much discussion about the weather. So I think it's pretty interesting that there's kind of that intersection between what is going on in the world and like sort of like what the future is in terms of how the planet is doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting because if you think about, I don't think a lot of people in their everyday imaginations associate America with a lot of heat, right? Like when people think of a lot of countries where heat is very intense, they look at the African region and the Middle Eastern region. But this Club World Cup is telling us that it's been really, really hot in the US and players are talking about it. But Thomas Muller came out and said he's 36 or 37 and he's playing in it and he's fine. Messi has been playing in it and he's fine. So people should stop complaining. But I think that it's true that the heat is a problem. And not a problem per se, but it impacts play and players have to adapt a lot. And I think with the Real Madrid PSG game, for instance, the game had to be delayed because of some weather conditions. So we are not just seeing the heat, but we're also seeing the weather interfering with the game. I remember one of Chelsea's games, was it the quarterfinal or so, where the game had to be delayed for so long, interfered with and delayed for so long before the match was completed. So it's interfering with the game in a way that we've not seen and we've not experienced regularly. And that's why it's now a much more...
In a very long time, right? Yeah, my feeling is that by the 2026 World Cup, depending on how the discourse goes, it might become a huge highlight. And I see that there is, of course, like we are also like a social conversation podcast. that's why I just thought it was interesting. Like, we've spoken a lot about climate change, and the level of awareness can always grow
Yeah.
to get people who are in their day-to-day lives to get them concerned and involved and pay attention to it. I remember your conversation with the climate
Yeah.
activist on the COP and how much there's still a lot of delay and everything. So I'm keen to see, because like for the Club World Cup, it's still quite small in on a
Yeah.
scale. Like when it comes to the actual World Cup, I think it becomes far more diverse. And it's very interesting that you mentioned that it's because of the location, which is the US, because I think there's also an example of the of the World Cup itself in
Yeah.
Mexico, and no one really spoke about
Yeah.
the heat. Like when it happens in places where it's usual to find those things, no one really speaks
Yeah.
about it. Like I'm quite interested to see how it goes. Maybe in the future we'll see this as this was the warning that we
Yeah.
had, that these things are our daily lives. But
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
interesting.
it's.
Anyway, would you have a prediction for the
Oh,
final?
I'll give my prediction later. I can't give it this early on so that people stop listening. Come on. I have to. I have to.
I no, because I want to know how to continue this
No, you
discussion. I
don't
want to
continue
know
the
how to
discussion
continue
based
this
on my
discussion.
prediction for the final. Talk your talk. I'll talk mine, and then we can continue. Why are you framing this thing as like we are at loggerheads? Because you sound like
We are not at loggerheads, but we said we're known for agenda. So I need to know which hat you are wearing today.
who has been known for agenda. I've been known as the most objective, peerless, specific, and clear
Please.
pundit on this show. Yet, always, if I speak about Chelsea right now, you see I'm known for agenda. If I speak about United, you not say I'm known for
No, but
agenda.
I actually need you to bet against Chelsea.
Why do you
Like it's
need
very
me to
important
bet
that you go
against Chelsea?
against Chelsea today.
I
So.
mean, the world is already betting against Chelsea. I'm not part of the world.
Oh yeah, because look, so let's even delve into the final straight away. I think it's quite clear. Everyone
Mhm,
knows that Paris Saint-Germain is the best team in
mhm.
the world. I don't think that anyone can
Yeah,
dispute that. In a couple of months' time, we'll be seeing the UEFA Super
yeah.
Cup, which is between the Europa League winners and then the Champions League winners. And at first, when we all thought of it, we were like, it will be a massive showdown. So, so if you think about it in the context that now it's sort of like a super duper cup between like the Champions League side all the way down to a conference league like
Mhm.
winner, the gap is super wide. So I don't think it's wrong to say that Chelsea are the underdogs over
No, but
here. But I would
look,
say that for
before you
Chelsea,
continue, I don't think
for
people
Chelsea,
view the Chelsea PSG conversation from the lens you just put on it. Let me just clarify that. Spurs and PSG, the game is strictly premised on those two trophies. Chelsea and PSG, the game is not premised on those two trophies. The game is a singular competition where both of them have shown their class through to the grand final. So it has nothing to do with Chelsea's conference league status. Stop framing Chelsea as the underdog in this conversation
no,
to the degree with which you are doing it.
I disagree. I disagree. Two points here. Like first, this has been referenced a lot
Not
within the
by me.
media. But secondly, it has been accentuated the by a lot of narratives around how Chelsea got to the final. If you think about it, people said PSG has beaten the European teams, the tougher
Mhm.
teams. Chelsea has just beaten teams from Brazil and from around the rest of the world, so have not really had a test
Okay.
or any real competition in the lead up to
Okay.
it. Moreover, this is a team that just beat Real Madrid 4, beat Bayern Munich 2, beat Inter Milan 5, beat Atletico 4. There's no way that Chelsea's entering into this with people thinking
Look,
that they do
look,
have a
look.
chance. I think I think I think it is normal,
Mhm,
and I think it is on the based on the
mhm,
evidence of the
mhm,
facts. You wouldn't like if we open all the betting
mhm.
sites, you wouldn't find any of them that would put like more odds with Chelsea over Paris Saint Germain. So I think the underlying thing is that Chelsea is coming into this as underdogs. But the point I was trying to make is that that is the perfect position for Chelsea. We have always entered into finals as underdogs, and that is a position that's quite comfortable for us. In fact, we feel quite uneasy when we are the favorites. But as underdogs, I think we do fancy our chances over there, and I like that narrative.
Look, you always say that the media frames a narrative. I don't support the media. You use the media to explain my version of the narrative. I'm telling you, I'm not the media. So you pick and choose when to assign the media to me and when not to assign the media to you.
So what are you?
No, so hold on. First of all, I disagree with the way in which you frame this game. This game is not a Champions League winner and a Conference League winner coming to play some one-off game. This game is...
Those are the facts. Those are the facts.
This game is two teams who've massively evolved since those two games that you are talking about. And I would say that if there's any team that has experienced more growth and more evolution since those two trophies, it's Chelsea more than PSG. So you don't judge these two teams on the premise. You don't judge these two teams because that's what you are. You guys want to claim the underdog narrative so that you don't feel the pressure of going into the final. But listen, that's the thing. I am not the person who just looks at the blind facts and then says, Chelsea won Conference League, PSG won Champions League, then Chelsea's the underdog. No. Secondly, the whole point about Chelsea not beating the top dogs in Europe. Did you see the draw when they started the knockout rounds? Did you see the teams that were on Chelsea's side of the draw?
Yeah.
They had Manchester City. They had Inter Milan, who were the second best team in Europe. Inter Milan, who were just in the Champions League final with PSG. Inter Milan, who beat Barca over a six-goal thriller, right? And I think 14 goals over the stretch of 2 legs or whatever. It had Manchester City that had bought players since January till now, more than any club has done in the history of football. It had Manchester City with Pep experimenting the peak of his rebuild. Chelsea didn't face those two teams. What Chelsea did was even better. Chelsea beat the teams that beat those teams. That's the class Chelsea entered the grand final with. So you don't view Chelsea and think that they had the easy way to the final and that it was an easy path. Chelsea throughout this tournament has actually proven that they are much more adaptable and much more reactive to new brands of football. Because the thing that beats those big teams were they don't know how these Brazilian teams play. They don't know how the Saudi teams play. They face them, they are not willing to budge. They have a coach that's willing to soak the pressure and they get punished. Chelsea overcame those things. So you don't view this team as a team that is some random Conference League winner. This is a team that throughout the tournament has shown to be adaptable in instances where big European teams have not been able to. They've shown to win the trickiest of games that other big European teams have not been able to. And they've shown to beat teams that were the masters of the so-called favorites on Chelsea's side of the draw. So this is a team that has paid their dues to come to the grand final. So let's respect them as such. And let's not pat them down and think that they are not ready to be there.
But the facts still remain. It's not that I don't agree with you, but the facts still remain. Like, I want to ask a question. Yeah. Would you say this current iteration of Chelsea is better than Bayern Munich or Real Madrid?
Yes, they are.
That's a bold statement.
I'm very frank with you. You see, very, very bold. If I have any hesitation, you would sense it in my response, right? You would sense it in my response if I had any hesitation. I'm very frank with you.
That's a very, very bold
Yes, statement. They are. This Chelsea team is much better and much more assured of delivering consistent performance than Real Madrid and PSG. Let me explain this. Than Real Madrid and Bayern. Let me explain this. What is Real Madrid's characteristics and what are their flaws? They are not working hard. They're a team playing as individuals. They just had a new coach who is trying a new system without the actual players that he needs to be able to play it. And the big name players are out of form. They are not showing up and they are being abysmal. Those are all characteristics that you can point to one in Chelsea's form now. Look at Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich is being coached by a team, and is being coached by a coach who is taking his very big job now, like in Vincent Company. I think people still forget that Company is still starting out as a manager who is managing a big team for the very first time. But more importantly, he's managing characters that to some degree overshadow him as a manager. Because when people talk about the Bayern team, they talk more about the individual players than they talk about the manager. And that's similar with Xabi Alonso with Madrid now. The individual players sort of have characteristics and media and branding that overshadow the branding of the manager. You can't say same about PSG, which is what Enrique came to change. Because the old PSG iteration had players who were much more valuable than the manager. Now, the manager is the most valuable asset in the club. So he can bench you, he can pull you aside, he can do this. Those are characteristics you find in Chelsea now. Those are the things that make you, those are the things that make you a better team, because the manager has a cemented authority. Because Enzo Maresca can say you won't play, and no matter what you do, you won't play. You'll be on the bench, and Chelsea would rather pay you billions of dollars and never play you until somebody comes and lowball them and take the money. That's the kind of system that he's built. People would see this Chelsea team and cannot name a single player who has a bigger brand than Enzo Maresca, because the players, even though they are good, have not built that kind of aura and reputation around them to the degree that they overshadow the authority of a manager. So Chelsea has prime conditions that make them a better team than any of these two teams, even though these two teams have history and all those things. Chelsea is better.
You know what? I think is going on. Like, people have spent the entire year, the entirety of 2025, especially, writing off our team. Like, people have spent from January, like, you've not won in how many matches, Kopama hasn't scored in how many matches, Jackson is a flop, to your conference league and start padding in the conference. Nkunku is start padding in the conference league. And we, even on the last day against Nottingham Forest, people had Nottingham Forest winning over us and scoring us. People had Aston Villa, who was playing at United, Newcastle, who was playing Everton at home, said, yes, they were automatically through and we were not going to make it into the Champions League. We eventually finished third, showed a lot of character, and in 3 days went to the Conference League finals against a Betis team that people said they would surprise us, Anthony, and still won. So keep that energy. All of a sudden, these guys, even when we came into the even when we came into the Club World Cup, we won the first game. We lost the second game. And you could see everyone turn around again and said, yeah, the Banter Club, and who are they? And see the signing. You've gone to sign Delap. What is he bringing to the table? And he doesn't know what he's doing. Then all of a sudden, all around, I hear people talking about how great a club it is, how well run, they have options, and the tactical version. Keep your fucking energy. Keep up that energy. We don't want you guys to change your mouth. We are the Chelsea that is written off. We are the unserious club. Mandem FC. Rastafarian FC. Keep the energy. Keep it. We don't want anyone hyping us. Like, some people are now saying, when we go into the new season, we are title contenders.
I think that's a stretch. Like, I honestly think that one is a stretch.
No, I don't. Yes. No, I don't understand this energy.
So
Luis Enrique is going to pump us 5. So it's 5-0 against us. We have no defense. Cucurella is the worst one. We might not even have Caicedo on the pitch. Please,
Erasmus.
Keep the energy.
So first thing is, you see, it's only there's this popular saying that it's only a foolish person who doesn't change their mind, especially in the face of evidence. So for instance, it is fine, and I don't think you should say people should keep their energy. Like, it is fine for people to be skeptical of a Chelsea team that throughout the season have had dips, falls under a new manager. They are still experimenting whether or not they're able to gel. And everybody has said this. Like, this Chelsea team's main issue had never been that they didn't have talented characters. it has always been that whether or not, with how quickly they pulled them together and how quickly they pulled apart the old team, whether or not they would need a longer period of time to gel together and start playing as a team. So it was never about whether or not the team was horrible. It was about whether or not the team could get the conditions to create that environment quickly enough. And obviously, if any sports pundit who was going to give this analysis, even you, and we're talking about a team, a different club, the most rational prediction would be that, oh, it will take time, given that they need to study how to play with each other. You need to find the best positions, find the best tactical systems that suits them, especially under a new manager like Enzo Maresca. It was obvious that you needed to give the team time. The team has had their time. I think they've actually progressed much quicker than I expected. For instance, that after.
So I have a question. So how do you see the match playing out on Sunday, especially after what you saw PSG do to Real Madrid? I'm very curious as to, like, walk me through what you think is going to happen.
No, so Sunday. I still think that Chelsea is up against their biggest opponent so far in the competition. And it's nice that it's coming up in the grand final, because PSG is still undisputedly the best team in Europe. I still think, for instance, if Chelsea met Real Madrid, Chelsea has a very good chance of beating Real Madrid. If Chelsea met Bayern Munich, Chelsea has a very
I actually wanted Real Madrid.
like Chelsea had a very good chance of beating Bayern Munich as well.
I was praying for a comeback.
So I think that the teams that PSG beat does not automatically mean that they are likely to beat Chelsea. I think Chelsea presents a different challenge, a challenge that PSG hasn't faced so far, like a team of youngsters who are hungry, who are talented, who has a manager who has found some way, somehow to instill belief in them. The only thing here is, you guys, I'm realizing that there's one big thing that Chelsea crumpled under in this previous season, which is anytime they went into situations as favorites, like you said, they ended up crumpling under that responsibility to live up to a bigger expectation. So we saw the famous period, like the brief weeks where Chelsea was touted to win some games and lead the table and go up and lead the title charge. That was the specific period where Chelsea got some abysmal draws and dipped in form, and then all of a sudden those things happened. But within the periods like we're seeing, within the Conference League, within the last weeks of the season, when it's like the pressure is not on them, but it's more like they are going against the odds, they feel like they are the underdogs, then that has some motivation to it. Beyond the motivation, it also takes away a sense of responsibility and not entitlement, but expectation. I think so. Like expectation off your shoulders. It lightens the weight a bit. So it's mainly about how Chelsea feel going into this game. For me, which is why I think that people are also playing a lot into Chelsea's arms without realizing it. Like, people think that they are undermining Chelsea by saying that they are not a good team, that PSG will beat them. But that's exactly the narrative that Chelsea wants to hear right now, because that's exactly the narrative that gives the players the freedom to be themselves, to feel like, look, there's nothing to lose here. Everybody expects us to lose anyway. And it is that nothing to lose spirit that gives you the freedom to just express yourself. For me, that presents an entirely new challenge for PSG to deal with. Secondly, I think Chelsea's midfield is now, I think the biggest influencer on this game would be Cole Palmer. And it's mainly about how much he works off the ball. Because of the way PSG is very quick, because of how relentless they are, keep moving, you can't have a Chelsea team where even any single player expects the team to play for them instead of playing actively as part of the team. So if you ask me, I can tell you within the first 10 minutes whether or not Chelsea is going to survive that game or whether or not PSG is going to run riots, because there are clear indicators that would show you how the team has been set up, their character moving into the first signs of challenge and distress, and how they are responding to those situations. So I don't think this is a game that is straightforward for any of them. Obviously, with PSG's pedigree, with PSG's experience as well, and also with the experience of Luis Enrique and having big games to play, his Barca iteration, his now PSG iteration, it's much more rational to say that the odds favor PSG a bit more. My only thing is, I don't think it's as wide as people paint it to be. But painting it wide gives Chelsea exactly the kind of narrative they need to pull up a surprise performance. So I won't be shocked if PSG is beat. Like, that wouldn't be an upset for me. I think for the media it will be, but I don't think for me it would be like a surprising thing that PSG is beaten by Chelsea.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. I think that the players should consider this like a unique
Yeah,
opportunity to make a name for themselves. Because realize that we're also about to play Champions League
yes,
this season, and in the new format of the Champions League, you are not excluded from facing the
yeah,
big teams. So previously, you would have played a couple of small teams. We know we'll make it through them. Maybe we take our chances in the round of 16
yeah,
and quarterfinals, and till you meet maybe one of the big sides, then you know it's a challenge. But now, right from the get-go, you need to beat the big sides in order to survive. And there's been lots of questions given that we were previously competing in the conference league where the quality is obviously way
yeah,
lower, to say that how would we look like against the PSGs, the Real Madrids, the Atletico Madrids. So I think the closest we came to that was the Benfica game, but I don't know if it's how Chelsea played or it's just how Benfica played, because Benfica beats Bayern
yeah,
like the match before. But in the match against us, they looked clueless. Same game, same way with Fluminense.
yeah,
Like they looked like warriors against Inter Milan and against Al Hilal. Against us, the match looked too easy.
yeah,
It looked like we're in control. Like, of course, one or two moments where it was dangerous, but it looked too easy. So the feeling still within a lot of Chelsea fans is that maybe we've not been tested enough, and this will be a good test. But I think that the players need to take on the challenge of this is our chance to show the world what we are made
yeah,
of. And this is one of the chances we just came out of nowhere. We were not expecting. And I think given that extra motivation, they are likely to move ahead. That being said, I still think it's a team that lacks a lot of experience, especially at the top
yeah,
level, and can be undone by a lot of clever
yeah,
play, moments within the game where they may not be expecting, compared to this PSG team, which is more battle
yeah,
ready and have been hardened by the extra competition they faced over the last couple of
yeah,
years. But secondly, I think we have if you look at the PSG team, like everyone, each one of the 11, you can't find any weakness with them. But Chelsea still has a lot of areas on the pitch where there is some weaknesses, and my finger is pointing to the goalkeeper position. Um, the like there's the fact that Romeo Lavia can't make this match like really really
yeah,
bothers me, because I think it would have introduced a fantastic dynamic within the game, given his more of his press resistance ability, and also giving Moses Caicedo the chance to defend further up the pitch, where he can sort of try, and players like Vitinha and Joao Neves, who are very good at progressing the ball, he can put more pressure on them, hopefully win chances high up the field, and help us generate quick chances instead of like defending
yeah,
deep. So all those things leaves some questions around our ability to get around it. But all the same, on the night, in order to give us any chance, we have to be inch perfect, or we have to expect that PSG will slip up somewhere. But I think that it is less likely that they slip up anywhere, and we have to be inch perfect. But I genuinely believe that Enzo Maresca is as tactically savvy as any other good coach out there. And if there is anyone who can present sort of like a puzzle for Luis Enrique, it's probably going to be Maresca. But I see it's going like the Liverpool game, where we sort of surprised them. If you remember the Liverpool
yeah.
game, we surprised and slot a bit. But
They catch
eventually,
up.
their quality shone
Yeah,
through. That's the feeling that I get with this game, that people might come out saying, oh, but that Chelsea team is really good. But as to whether we get the trophy, I I want to be yeah, I want to believe that we might nick a 1-0 and defend very well, or like take it to penalties and win the game. But I think that's PSG's extra quality which they have. But I think if we're able to survive the first half, I'll be very, very
Yeah.
confident.
I mean, for me, I would say like there are two key things that Maresca or Chelsea would need to survive this game. The first one is character. Like you need a team that is willing to suffer and like not crumble easily under pressure,
Who said
right?
that?
You said what?
So Maresca was asked in a press conference that they are expected not to have the ball and suffer, and he said, "Who said
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah,
We'll see."
exactly. Like my thing, like they shouldn't crumble under pressure. And that was the second thing I was going to, that all the teams that have come up against PSG have lost because they play by reacting to PSG. They allow PSG to play their football, and then they see how best they can defend against PSG's football. If you do that, you've lost, because what you are going to be doing is allowing very technically gifted players the chance to hold the ball in your half a lot more and hope that they don't utilize their chances. And that's the mistake that the likes of Bayern and Real Madrid made, because they set up in a way that tried to counter PSG's approach. The thing with PSG also is they are really, really stubborn and they go all out, right? So it's like the game is likely to be a very, if Chelsea would play well, it's likely to be a very high scoring game. And if Chelsea take their chances, you'd have the two teams bombing forward a lot, because PSG and the way in which they play have these free roaming fullbacks in Hakimi and Mendes who create their overloads at the top half of the pitch. Now, the system is set up such that those players are expected to run back and forth for 90 minutes of the game. If Chelsea is very, very direct with the kind of wingers that you guys have, very direct, and like you break lines with the kind of technically gifted passes in Kopama, in Enzo Fernandez, you are likely to have very, very good chances against the PSG side that's going to come. And Luis Enrique has showed that he doesn't care who the opposition is. He doesn't care the threats they pose behind him. He's going to be daring and play his football, because it's a game of chess and it's about who tries to adapt first. So what he does is, maybe you think that when you send your wingers forward, he's going to ask his fullbacks to come. No, he's going to still camp his fullbacks, and now he's waiting for you to be the one to say your wingers should track back. And that's you reacting to his tactical adjustment or his tactics within the game. It's about Chelsea also being able to stand their grounds and say, we'll play our football, play yours. We'll take our risks, take yours. Whoever gets punished should be punished, because it's a one-time game. And I think that's the kind of football that PSG hasn't been tested with so far in the matches that they've been playing. So it's very interesting to see the kind
Yeah.
of daring and bold character that Chelsea will go into this game with.
What one more addition before, because I know we need to discuss the other topics
Yeah,
also. Like two games come to mind, right? The Botafogo game, which PSG
yeah,
lost 1-0, and then the Aston Villa game where
yeah,
Aston Villa won
yeah,
3-2. And I think I agree with you that these these are the two extremes where you can actually compete with
yeah,
PSG. The first one is you have to be defensively
yeah,
solid. So you can choose to be defensively solid and then try and hit them on the counter, because just like you said, they have a lot of their players bombing forward, which means that they do leave gaps. So if you are able to defend them very well and you have the speed of the counter, you can actually exploit the gaps over
yeah.
there, and you have to be able to also finish your chances, because Donnarumma
He's
is
in form.
one of the best goalkeepers in the
Yeah,
world, especially 1v1. Yes. But as much as that approach is good and as much as I feel safer with that approach, like the issue I have is that Chelsea one doesn't, like, we defend very well, but not when we do it deep for
yeah,
very long. Like I've realized that like players like Gusto, you realize like the back post defending is sometimes very, very tricky, and PSG is also good at finding the space, no matter how much clamped you are there, and it's putting the game into their hands, getting them to try a variety of things to try and break you down. And it's a bit demoralizing when you've sat back all game and they still find a way to score. But I still think that we have players on the counter like Cole Palmer and Enzo Fernandez, João Pedro, and even Pedro Neto, who are very, very quick, and therefore we can exploit it in attack. But I think that we are going to take the Aston Villa way. And this is also evidenced by how I saw Enzo Maresca play against the big teams, even in the EPL, for example, with Liverpool. Liverpool is a high-pressing team anyway that likes to also have the ball. But what he did was he brought the back line forward and make sure that he was recycling possession. And PSG's biggest asset is their pressing. You don't want them pressing you in front of your goal. So I think what's going to happen is that there's going to be a lot of recycling between the defenders trying to draw in the press, because they'll press aggressively, and then now use the long ball to play behind them. So I'm curious to see who starts up front, whether it will be Delap or João Pedro. I think that like what Delap gives you is that sort of like hustle on the ball, because usually they use Marquinhos and Pacho to attack the aerial balls. But I know that Chelsea can also be very, very, very aggressive on the counter press and in winning the second balls. So if you play the ball between the defenders, and these defenders are very good on the ball anyway, my only fear is Sanchez, who might just get to like a PSG player. But if that happens, I think that we make the chances. But not only so, because PSG is also not used to defending deep and being caged in the box. They don't like that. So it means that if you play around the press for a very long time, they will get uncomfortable and drop you in order to hit you on the counter. They are very, very good on the counter, but they also don't like defending very, very deep. So I think we are more likely to take the Aston Villa approach, which might mean that we're exposed defensively, but it might also give us a couple of goals. With this PSG team, it's almost impossible to stop scoring them. So perhaps the most practical thing is to go ahead and score.
That's the thing. You can't stop them from scoring, so you have to score. Which is, I think, the biggest test for Chelsea in this game is that you might be the ones who concede first. And if you do, it's about how you react. It's whether or not the players get like, we said, they've started, like they are scoring, there's going to be more. Or it's like, guys, we stick to the way we are playing and we'll get them. Right? It's about that composure within those periods. And I think if you guys can do that, and it's even better if you guys get the first goal, but if not, and PSG score first, I think it will be very, very crucial to see how the players react.